Hello, thank you. So to start things off, I'd like you to just briefly introduce yourself, please.
Hello, I'm Ronnie from Afribit Kibera, Nairobi, Kenya. We run a circular economy that is based on upcycling and waste management.
Hello guys, I'm Daniel from Bitcoin Babies in Kenya, Kimbo. We run a Bitcoin circular economy based on mothers and babies.
Hello, my name is Belly Noberi Kubayo. I'm from Burundi. We are learning BTC Shule, which is a Bitcoin circular economy based in Burundian village, where we are working with families in the village.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Blink stage. My name is Brendan. I represent Bitcoin Kampala, which is a circular economy that directly looks after 115 children at Orphans of Uganda and is also responsible for separating students from their families by teaching them about Bitcoin around Makerere University, which is the biggest university in Uganda. And it's a pleasure to be on this panel.
Yeah, we have just one mic, so we're gonna just be passing it all the time. So yeah, let's get a little bit into when your particular circular economy started and what was the initial motivation for you to do so.
So our circular economy started around 2022. The main motivation was the financial exclusion, and the Kibera community is one of those communities which are disenfranchised from the traditional banking system. And with limited opportunities, we thought with the community, Bitcoin was one of the best options, or rather, to help the community out.
From our perspective, we wanted to empower women, especially mothers who have kids under a year or pregnant women. And every week we give them $5. So giving them the $5 doesn't mean in Bitcoin. We needed a place where they could spend those $5 every week. So we ended up creating a circular economy with a few merchants who provide almost every service that could be needed by the mothers. And the circular economy began in 2024, and it's up and running right now.
I run a NGO charity in Burundi since 2019, and that's how let me say I met Bitcoin, because we are normally teaching young people how to use ICT, how to use computers, how to use internet and stuff. And like when I visited Bitcoin Ekasi, like in the township when they are working on the ground in 2024, like it's when I found like they are doing great works. They are helping people, like people who are on the ground. And I said, like, what if I go in my community and within my community and I start something? That's how I started. But we tried to start it in the town, because the way we are working with the NGO and educating people. But in town, it didn't work. And normally I'm from the village, but we are living, like now I'm living in the town, but like I said, what if I go in the town and maybe I start something there? No, in the village, because in the village it is somehow unserved village. The people who are unbanked, they don't have bank account and stuff. Like somehow they don't even have money. And I say like, let's start a social project which will be learned with Bitcoin. That's how we started, and the project started normally in let me say February 2024. Yeah.
So Bitcoin Kampala started as a name in 2023, but the education efforts around Makerere University started in 2022, early. Straight out of COVID, I was a COVID student, graduated. When I graduated, I made it my mission to share with my friends what I knew about Bitcoin. So we'd been doing classes around the university, and in 2023, I got to meet Haman and Fernando, and that's when we put a whole structure of the circular economy onto it, because previously I was just teaching students, giving them sats, or teaching merchants and trying to bring the students to spend sats at those merchants. But I had not wrapped my head around keeping the sats moving around and that whole process. So in 2023, I met Haman and Fernando in BTC Prague. The story in between there is long, but it is meeting their projects and understanding them that added the flavor of we need to use whatever donations, whatever funding, whatever assistance we get from the Bitcoin world for a reasonable cause. So there was already a project that had showed willingness to take Bitcoin, and that was the orphanage. So Bitcoin Kampala quickly extended its support to the orphanage to enable them use Bitcoin to empower the 115 children. And by extension, everything that was coming to support the kids was coming in Bitcoin. So now that Bitcoin is what has been the fuel for that community. It's a very village community. It's 170 something kilometers from the city. The merchants down who supply us started to appreciate what we were gaining from Bitcoin because our lives changed. We found when the kids at the orphanage didn't have beds, they didn't have daily meals. So Bitcoin started by solving that. And when the people who were supplying those services saw the changes, they became interested. That's how we got our suppliers to accept Bitcoin. Then the teachers started to accept Bitcoin. So now the circular economy in Bujiri, which is where the orphanage is much, much bigger and stronger and has more transactional volume than the one around the university. So the knowledge in 2023 was very helpful.
So, Ronnie, there's some very interesting waste management economy going on in Kibera, if I'm not mistaken, right? So could you go a little bit into the details, how it works, why it works, and why Bitcoin, what role does Bitcoin play in that waste management economy?
Thank you. So for the waste management, most of these groups were already practicing what we would call garbage collection. And this is one of the works for what you would call the working poor group in the lowest community level. These are guys who, in most cases, are not able to have a bank account. They cannot even open a bank account. And even if they had one, they are not able to maintain one because of the fees and things like that. So it's an activity that's already existing. Most of these groups, they're already organized. They have their own systems and they have their own members and rules on how they govern. So the issue of plugging in Bitcoin came about as a tool to empower them and give them a hedge against inflation, but also give them an opportunity to be their own saving platform, be their own banks in contrast to the banking system. So how we worked this out was we started by incentivizing their efforts every weekend, where when they collect wastes, normally they would collect, sort, and then sell to recyclers. So we were incentivizing them with sats every weekend when they did their exercise. And our next step was, where would you spend these sats? So we had to sort of work backwards. And they mentioned areas like, local vendors, they would like to spend on hair, on the barbers, on the what we call entertainment spots, like where they would watch soccer. Those were some of the points. Then we moved backwards, and we had now to work with the merchants, because the merchants, you find, they are older, much older, and they are the business owners. One of the ingredients that we had was we had a trust with this community, because we've worked there like for over 15 years or so in other social projects. And we were able to initiate that rapport with the merchants. And the young guys now were able to spend, their sats through these merchants. But then the challenge that we had was these guys, when they got paid these sats, they were still losing these sats to a few whales in the community who were more informed about Bitcoin. So the sats were not really circulating. So we had to come back now to an education level, where we decided for everyone who was participating in the waste management, they had to do like a 15-hour mandatory of incentivized learning. But this was the catch. We will give you some sats. If you attend the first 3 sessions, you'll get some sats on the 3rd session and on the last 2 sessions. And by the 3rd session, there was a huge behavior change. And that kind of bootstrapped, and there was a lot of interest. The other issue was the ladies, who were not mainly involved in the issue of the waste management. So the girls came up with a program now of upcycling, where they started repurposing, like waste that would have eventually ended into the to the landfills or maybe into waste, and they would make decor, table mats, and stuff from it. So it became more inclusive. Still a process in building, but those are some of the things, because in the community there's abundance of waste, if you can call it abundance, and we were looking at it as something we would call waste to sats model.
Excellent, thank you. And I need to point out that this became quite famous like a couple months ago, because there was a report on BBC News precisely about this waste management economy in Afribit in Kibera, and it's called "Why Bitcoin is on the Rise in Kenyan Slums." You can see it on YouTube. It's a 3-minute video, and it already has 126,000 views. So it's a very nice appreciation, I would say, of what you're doing in the community. So for the next question, I would like to discuss like the specifics of some of the groups that you're focusing on, like Bitcoin babies, mothers, and orphans and kids. What kind of specifics are there in terms of Bitcoin education and Bitcoin adoption?
For Bitcoin babies, it is simple and direct for us. We have a program which has been scheduled for the entire year that guides women on different aspects of life, including Bitcoin itself. They learn, let's say, health issues, they learn mental wellness, they learn financial wellness, they learn financial literacy and everything. Most of the mothers in the program are not quite literate, I will say, but they have previous knowledge and experiences through birth issues and pregnancy issues. And in the community where the project is situated, it's not a community that you will say everyone is educated. Very few people have the knowledge to know how to manage finances. And health-wise, Kenya is not that advanced. So catering for a pregnant woman hasn't been an easy journey for most of the Kenyan communities. It's only a few people who can manage that. So after seeing these experiences, we decided to incorporate something that women will learn how to take care of themselves, not only health-wise, but financial-wise. Take care of themselves, take care of their babies from childhood. A child will grow up knowing what Bitcoin is a child will grow up knowing how to keep themselves healthy and fit. That's why we came up with Bitcoin babies and expanding that, teaching them how to know how to transact or spend in Bitcoin rather than fiat currency. So the whole circular economy is just articulated around our program. We don't onboard merchants anyhowly, we selectively onboard the merchants based on whatever we are doing as a program. Yeah.
Yes, so it's not simple and direct like it is at Bitcoin Babies. But if you think about it, the greatest way we can disrupt, because there's a vicious cycle in the area where the orphanage is based. There is there is early marriages, which results from children not being well looked after by their parents, if the parents exist. So how do you disrupt a region that has early marriages, that has it has very poor education systems, it has been neglected by the government, genuinely speaking? You go and you find a very small community and you make a difference. So for us, it made sense to receive donations and put them to use in a community like that. Yes, 5 to 10% of our budget still goes to the university, but we feel there is already enough privilege for you to be at the university. So if you can't find Bitcoin on your own, we'll just guide you, but we won't give you free sats. What we've done, though, is direct the sats we receive into this project with the hope that if we make the children healthy enough and we empower them with farming skills, we empower them with valuable skills like making products their communities consume, we'll give them a reason beyond their community, beyond succumbing to the problems that exist in their community. So right now we have organized it in that way. The SATs come into the project as a way to, one, keep the children in school. In fact, we recently had the opportunity of purchasing the school they go to, because we found the school owner wanting to sell the school to close it because the community was not making business sense for them. So now we own the school where the children go and the community's children go. And that's very important. Thank you, Trezor, as well, because Trezor was part of that support. So now in owning the school, that means we own where they spend majority of their time. So we have the opportunity not only to influence them by teaching them about Bitcoin, which we do, but we also shape their perspective of life. We teach them these skills that they can go and exchange in the future for Bitcoin. Now, because they will not participate in the vicious cycle that is going on around them, then the community starts to look up to them. How? We already have majority of our suppliers now being paid in Bitcoin. The same Bitcoin that Bitcoiners donate worldwide. When they get paid in Bitcoin, they start to see the value of savings. It's not a community that saves a lot, it's a farming community. They live hand to mouth. So when they understand the perspective of Bitcoin, they also, by extension, change their families. They change the way they relate with their children because they are seeing how we are treating our children. So it's very hard to assess ourselves as a circular economy, and I was mentioning this at the Africa Bitcoin Circular Economy Summit, that we no longer measure our success based on merchant and transactional volume. We are measuring our success based on the impact that it has on the teachers of our children. We are measuring ourselves by the impact we already have within the community. The community has started its own Bitcoin savings circle that we are not involved in as Bitcoin Kampala. They up and about, the teachers and the caretakers and the nearby community decided that it is better for us to store a value in this thing that grows in value but also allows the people who don't have identity, like the orphans, to use it. So our children now come out of the orphanage as leaders in the community. In fact, we are now looking for exchange opportunities with people like Afribit, where one of our children or 2 or 3 can come and help and learn. So it's that layer where Bitcoin now goes into what KG called the age of communities, that Bitcoin surpasses just the transactional value, it surpasses the store of value discussion, and becomes a ray of hope, which we all want. So around the university, not to go there so much, we already also have part of the people we told 2-3 years ago that have been employed now completely save their money in Bitcoin. So it's a slow, tiresome process, but it's worth it. And we are glad that adopting Bitcoin, Cape Town continues to highlight these circular economies. So yeah.
One thing I had forgotten. Okay, the Kenyan government offers maternity care for free. But after maternity care, there's nothing else that is offered. So teaching these mothers how to handle before the maternity care and after the maternity care is something that rarely happens in the country. Bitcoin Babies tries to fill in that gap. Not for long. A year is enough, maybe, we don't know. We would like to offer 4 or 5 years for their kid, but a year is enough for us to maybe motivate or change the perspective that most Kenyan communities believe, or whatever the health sector of the Kenyan government believes.
Awesome, thank you. So, not to leave Belly out, I have a question about what are the specifics of educating Bitcoin in French? Because there's a lot of like resources in English, of course, and Uganda and Kenya are English-speaking countries. But maybe you can address like stuff like Swahili, how important that is. But let's first discuss whether you're like happy with the resources that we have in French, and yeah, stuff like that.
Okay, I didn't mention that, but we are also doing education for young people, not really people in the village, because we are working both in the village and in the town. So we are teaching young people about Bitcoin, and then we are using French as well. In town we are using Kirundi, French, but mainly Kirundi. But like, first of all, they like resources in French about Bitcoin, or many subjects about IT it's not enough. We don't have a lot of resources about in French which talk about Bitcoin and stuff. That's how like our people don't have information about Bitcoin. Let me stay on Bitcoin. They don't have information, and they are very curious. So they are curious because, first of all, like they experienced some scams, but also there are people who think that dealing with crypto in general or Bitcoin specifically is getting rich, making money. That's why there is a high level of curiosity. For example, if we open a form, online form for people to register for the training, we can easily get around 500 people interested. So like that, but that's mainly because there is no resources, there is no other people working on it. But it is helping a lot. We are trying to do it. We are working also with Trezor Academy programs. Like we have unlimited number of people who want to learn, who want to know, but now what we are trying to do is to transform our alumni in actors as well, as we are doing, so that like they can also teach people, launch initiative, build the communities around Bitcoin. That's what we are trying to do.
Do you want to talk a little
Yeah,
bit
sure.
about like the Swahili or languages?
Sorry?
Like the resources in Swahili maybe are important.
The resources.
In Swahili.
Yes, absolutely. Unlike many other communities, Kibera is still one of the most advanced, actually, education-wise community in Kenya. So you'll find there's all sorts of economics there. Like we have graduates, we have people who have limited education, and of course to make it inclusive, the Swahili resources do add a lot of value, but I think and I feel like if we can add, like, we have a slang, Swahili slang, in the community, like the sheng, then that would be a game changer, like for the young people, because we are mainly dealing with young people, and they have their own sort of, we call it damaged Swahili. And I think that is more appealing to them than any other thing. But yeah, Swahili does add a lot of value. Though in reality, sometimes you'll feel some of these guys actually are not able to properly communicate in Swahili because of the culture that has been curated around the slum communities. They kind of have their own language, especially for the demographic that we're dealing with. But like the treasure books we had in Swahili, they were game changers for mainly elderly people. Yeah.
From my perspective, I will say, I think the first book, I think you have seen in our book down there, the first edition of the book that we made was made in 2 languages actually. One of them was English and the other one was purely Swahili. We are dealing with a demographic that doesn't know Sheng that much. As much as we know Sheng a lot, they don't know. So printing in Swahili made it a little easier for the first groups of MAM to understand the concept that we were bringing to the community around. So yes, having resources in the local dialect is a plus because it eases understanding whatever you are bringing to them and makes it easy for you to input a lot of more education and more knowledge to them.
What I can add is that we have some resources that we translated in French. First, there is a Trésor Academy program which is recorded, which is in French. So sometimes we refer some people to the videos on YouTube, on our YouTube channel and Trésor YouTube channel, so that they can go and learn in French. We also have resources in Kirundi. For example, there is some training that we learned in Kirundi, Trésor Academy programs that we learned in Kirundi because we have the curriculum translated in Kirundi, thanks to Economies. We also have some articles that we translated in Kirundi about Bitcoin, of course, that are on Economies website. We also have other articles which are translated in Kirundi on Plan B Network website. So like now we have more than 30 articles that we can find in Kirundi and French that we translated so that people can access to content without language barrier.
In our experience, majority of the people can't read in the local community, but our gateway to them has been the teachers and the local community members who can speak English, but they can also speak the local languages. And it's very important to provide them with as much information as possible. So yes, there has been a few translations by Economies, but they are mostly getting it through the nodes that you ideally create in that community that speak both languages. it's a much more efficient approach because then it also doesn't attack the community from a fear of reading. There is a saying that we follow so much in my community that if you want to hide information from an African man, put it in writing. So we realized it was not working at all by putting it in writing, and we decided to use more human beings that come from that community and have them kind of deliver the information last mile in the language those people speak.
All right, I'd like to give you an opportunity to ask a question, if there's any question from the audience. We have like 3 minutes left. Yeah, Josh, yes. Let me give you the mic.
So I'm just brainstorming here because I want to eventually become a circular economy myself. But what from what I hear, like you all are getting funding from somewhere, but do you guys have any ideas if I'm not getting funding, how to jumpstart it?
Thank you. Yeah, who would like to address it?
So I think what I mentioned at the beginning is our initial approach as now Bitcoin Kampala, then Gorilla Sats, was we still do it, a 5% kickback from the profit company. And that's the advocacy I've been trying to do within our circles, pushing all of us to become entrepreneurs. I wouldn't advise even the ones who have funding to rely on that funding, because vividly what we know is funders can go away. But what we've done is, one, you as the person who is starting the circular economy should be comfortable funding some of those activities. I'm certain Bitcoin Babies only got funders about 6 months into the project. Majority of that was being funded by the founder. And what we've done within our project is embed some of those models that allow us to earn money. So we have a farm that we bought through, yes, donated money, but now that farm is reducing our budget on food. We are making liquid soap. The children are very hands-on. And that liquid soap is being sold in the community for money. So the approach would be right now, what you can do is whichever business you run or when you have a salary, if you are employed, you have to be ready to put the skin in the game, what we say, and fund some of those initial activities. Luckily, if you don't tie to a charity like we are, you might not need as much money. You might need what you're comfortable with. And that's the beauty. You don't have to start the circular economy to a very big scale. You could start with 5 vendors and the number of sats you're willing to give out, let's say on a weekly basis, and put those sats on a weekly basis and ensure they do that circle from the merchant maybe back to you or the people you give those sats to. So you don't have to start big. If you're really ready to start and you're ready to put in the work, the easiest way would be find where you already have a constant source of income. For us at Gorilla Sats, it was the tourism. We had made enough friends who wanted to come visit, and we would fund the teaching activities from that money. So we would get it from our pockets, essentially. So if you have an entrepreneurial approach to it and you just make it as your corporate social responsibility, it becomes very easy. And it is also easy for people to support it when it's already moving. I think that's the easiest way. Bitcoin Babies now is a very successful project because they put the skin in the game. So yeah, that would be my approach.
Well, I think the same thing Brendan has said. You need to have your own self-planned before you apply anything. Because if we depended on funding, I don't think Bitcoin Babies would be existing right now. It will be one of the failed projects. But with time, with our own efforts and everything put into it, later on we started getting funding, which has made the circular economy grow. Because even the merchants that we began with, they are not all that are there. They expected, it's Bitcoin, you have money. right? But at the end of the day, those who survived, we still are with them, and the ones that left are hoping they didn't left.
I think for us it was a bit different because we started on a very different pedestal, and what we focused on was embedding Bitcoin as a tool and not necessarily like, a need for funding per se. So we started by integrating it into already existent projects and powering the knowledge, and that way we had to rely less on funding, and we are trying to do more of that in business accelerator programs and some of the initiatives that we are trying to build and the societal needs that we are trying to meet, so that even when you take Bitcoin away, like these societies can still be functional and can still be fruitful. So whatever funding comes in is a plus to help, but then you really don't have so much to rely like on funding and stuff.
Great answers. Thank you. Thank you all. So we are unfortunately out of time. We don't have time for any more questions, but you can catch these gentlemen in the halls. I'd like to mention one last time all the projects that were represented. It's Afribit Kibera, Bitcoin Babies, BTC Shule, and Bitcoin Kampala. So make sure to follow these projects. And yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you.